When Alessio, my husband, confessed to me one of his most intimate fantasies, I never thought that I would have the courage to realize it together with him. His words resonated in me like a distant echo, impossible to ignore, and at the same time they pushed me towards a universe of unexplored emotions. Alessio wanted to see me with another man, a man completely different from him, a black man. Initially, I was overwhelmed by a wave of bewilderment and confusion, but then a deeper feeling made its way: curiosity. What really drove us to do it? And above all, what would we have discovered about ourselves and our relationship? That night, in a refined suite of a luxury hotel, we found ourselves faced with something unique, intense, and unexpected, as if time had stopped to observe only us. I have always been a discreet, almost reserved person when it came to my private life. With Alessio, we shared an apparently peaceful married life, dotted with moments of intimacy and complicity, a love built on mutual respect and small daily gestures. But as often happens, tranquility can hide subtle cracks. In recent months, I had noticed something different. Alessio seemed more distant, as if a hidden thought was holding him prisoner. It was a silent absence, subtle but tangible, creeping between us like a shadow in a lit room. One evening, during a dinner in which silence weighed more than words, I decided to break that veil of mystery. I looked into his eyes, trying to decipher that mixture of hesitation and curiosity that hovered on his face. Alessio, is there something worrying you? You seem different to me, distant for some time, I asked him in a sweet but firm tone. He looked down for a moment, almost seeking refuge in the plate in front of him, then looked back at me. There are things on my mind, he said, after a short pause. I didn't know how to tell you. It's something a little peculiar. Those words, spoken with such caution, made me hold my breath. Particular? What is it? I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. Alessio leaned forward slightly, clasping his hands as if to find comfort. I've been thinking a lot about our life as a couple lately, Cheat, Samit. He began, his voice almost soft. We have always had a good understanding, but I feel that something is missing. I would like to explore new horizons, share experiences that can enrich us both. My heart quickened its pace, not so much out of fear, but out of the unexpected courage I sensed in his words. What do you mean exactly, I asked, trying to mask my shock. He looked at me with a depth that made me feel naked before him, and in a barely audible voice he confessed, I would like to see you with another man. A tense silence enveloped the room. Those words hit me like a bolt from the blue. Never, not even in my furthest thoughts, had I contemplated such a possibility. Are you sure? Is this really something you want? I stammered, trying to make sense of that revelation. Alessio nodded calmly, as if he had found peace in his decision. Yes, I'm sure. It's not a whim. It's something I've thought about for a long time. I think it could be a way to strengthen our bond, to explore an aspect of us that we've never faced. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, fear, and in a hidden corner, a spark of curiosity that I didn't dare admit even to myself. I don't know what to say, I replied truthfully. Give me some time to think about it. I don't want to force you, Alessio said gently. I want it to be a decision we make together, when and if you feel like it. Have you ever found yourself having to face such an unexpected and profound choice? Write it in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think. In the following days, those words continued to echo in my mind, pushing me to question what I really wanted, what this proposal would mean for us. I spent sleepless nights reflecting, talking to myself, trying to untangle the intertwined threads of my emotions. Finally, one evening, while we were sitting on the couch, I decided to face the moment. "I've been thinking a lot about what you told me," I began, my voice shaking. "If it's really what you want, I'm willing to try, but we have to do it calmly, together, without forcing anything." Alessio's eyes filled with gratitude and relief. "Thank you. We won't do anything you don't want. It will be a journey we will take together." From that moment, everything changed between us. Alessio dedicated himself to the organization, always with care and respect. She explained that she wanted the man to be a person of color, a detail that reflected a deeper aspect of her desire. Although I was surprised, I decided to accept his emotions without judgment. After weeks of preparation, the day arrived. My heart was a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. I didn't know what to expect, but I felt like I was about to face something that would change our story forever. When the door opened and I saw Kwame, a man with a confident smile and an intense gaze, I knew our journey had just begun. He entered the room naturally, as if he was used to that type of situation, while I suddenly felt inadequate, lost in a vortex of conflicting emotions. Every detail of the moment seemed amplified: the muffled sound of my breathing, the delicate clink of glasses on the table, even the soft light that seemed to paint dancing shadows on the walls. Alessio, with his reassuring smile, introduced us with a calm that left me speechless, as if everything was perfectly natural. Kwame, however, welcomed me with a warm smile, immediately putting me at ease with respectful gestures and a soft tone of voice. He spoke with me for a few minutes, trying to melt the ice with a delicacy that affected me deeply. Despite the strangeness of the situation, I realized that Kwame was a reassuring presence. His every word seemed to whisper to me that I was safe, that everything would take place in full compliance with my wishes. Alessio sat on an armchair in a corner of the room, observing us with attentive but serene eyes. In his looks, I read a mixture of curiosity, desire, and an unexpected form of vulnerability. He made me understand, without words, that he was ready to stop everything at the slightest sign of discomfort on my part. I felt the weight of his emotions on me, but also his presence as a silent support. Kwame approached with an almost hypnotic grace, asking me in a warm and reassuring tone if I felt ready. His gaze, deep and respectful, seemed to dig into the depths of my soul, without ever invading my spaces. His every movement was like a silent melody, in tune with the beating of my heart. I took a deep breath, letting the oxygen transform into courage, a courage that seemed to emerge from a hidden place within me. Then, with a slight tremor, I looked at Alessio. In his eyes, I found a light that spoke of trust and unconditional love, and in his discreet smile, the strength to nod. It all began with an almost sacred slowness, like a ritual that required respect and presence. Kwame's every gesture was thoughtful, delicate, as if he feared breaking the enchantment of that moment suspended in time. His hands, warm and reassuring, moved with a disarming sweetness, exploring my every reaction with a sensitivity that bordered on the deepest empathy. It wasn't just physical contact. It was as if he was reading the emotions written on my body, finding a perfect balance between touch and respect. Every touch felt like an invitation to let go, to discover parts of myself that I had never dared to explore. It was a silent dance, where each step revealed a fragment of my being. It amazed me to discover how my body and mind responded, not only with curiosity, but with a freedom I had never known before. It was as if I was allowing myself to tear down walls I had put up without even realizing it. Meanwhile, Alessio observed us. His eyes met mine at times, communicating to me a mixture of approval and deep love. There was no trace of jealousy or insecurity in him, just the joy of seeing me live that experience with authenticity. As the night wore on, I completely lost track of time. Every moment seemed suspended in a parallel dimension, a place where only what we were experiencing mattered. I let myself go completely, embracing every sensation with a visceral curiosity. When it was all over, the room was shrouded in dense silence, full of unspoken meanings. Kwame took his leave with an elegance that struck me, leaving us alone in the suite. Alessio and I remained seated for long minutes, our eyes searching for each other without the need for words. It was as if I was trying to read the answers in his eyes that I didn't yet know how to formulate. It was he who broke the silence with a low, caressing voice. "Thank you," he said, his tender smile lighting up his face. "I don't know how to explain it to you, but I feel like this experience has brought us even closer." I looked at him, still deep in thought, trying to make sense of what I was feeling. Finally, I found the words I was looking for. "I feel it too," I replied, letting out a smile that reflected my gratitude. It was different, but in a uniquely beautiful way. We returned home that night with a new awareness, a sort of renewed intimacy that seemed to pervade us. In the days that followed, everything between us seemed brighter. We talked more, we laughed more, and the silence that had accompanied us in the previous months seemed to have vanished. I felt like we reconnected in a way I never thought possible. Yet inside of me, I continued to reflect on what had happened that evening. Not just about the experience itself, but about what it had awakened in me. It was as if I had discovered a new part of myself, a light I didn't know I had. One evening while we were in bed, Alessio looked at me with a sweet, knowing smile. "Have you thought about what happened?" he asked me, in a tone that betrayed a mixture of curiosity and tenderness. "Yes," I answered sincerely. "It's impossible not to think about it. It was an intense experience, unlike anything we had ever done." He nodded, taking my hand. "Seeing how much you let yourself go made me feel so close to you, how sto tonti," he confessed, his eyes on mine as if reading every nuance of my emotions. "But I want to know how you really felt. I don't want you to do it just for me." That question struck me deeply. I realized that for Alessio it wasn't just about satisfying a fantasy, but about truly understanding how that experience had transformed us. I was silent for a moment, collecting my thoughts. At first I was scared, confused, I admitted. But then I realized that I was exploring a part of me that I had always kept hidden. I didn't do it just for you, Alessio. I did it for myself, too. He shook my hand forcefully, as if to seal that newfound intimacy. "I'm happy you experienced it this way," he said. "I want whatever we do together to always be a shared choice, never a pressure." Over the next few weeks, we began to talk with a new sincerity, sharing desires and fantasies that we had always kept hidden. That evening with Kwame hadn't just opened a door, it had opened up an entire universe of possibilities. It wasn't so much the desire to repeat the experience, but rather the awareness of being able to confide in each other without fear of judgment. One evening, during a candlelit dinner, Alessio looked at me with bright eyes and said something that I will never forget. "What we experienced made me understand how important it is to see you happy in every sense, and I'm ready to live other experiences, but only if you want it too." Those words struck me deeply. I was discovering the power of our bond, the strength of our connection. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I was certain of one thing. Whatever it was, we would face it together, with love, respect, and the certainty that our complicity would always be at the center of everything. If you want to receive new videos of this series, write "I want the sequel" in the comments. If you like the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to receive a preview of the next publications. Thank you.